Hello, my name is Justin Adams, and welcome to Jay's Days. Today I am doing a cult classic. This movie is the ultimate Christmas classic. Not only the ultimate Christmas classic, it's one of the highest grossing films of all time. Guys, it's Home Alone. This movie is huge. Everyone knows this movie. It basically started another generation full of slapstick comedy. It didn't really start it, I don't want to say that, but it did rebirth it in a way. John Hughes wrote the script and produced it. If you don't know who John Hughes is, let me give you a little backstory on this guy. This man did The Breakfast Club, Weird Science, 16 Candles, and Flubber. But we'll try to forget about Flubber. This guy has done a lot of movies, has done a lot of iconic movies that we all know and love. One of them being Home Alone. The story is one of the most well-known Christmas stories of all time. It's about Kevin McAllister, aka Macaulay Culkin, aka Michael Jackson's victim. That was tasteless. I slapped myself for that one, that was mean. Kevin is a mean brat, and he has a huge family. The family's all going to Paris for Christmas, but he decides to be a little brat. He wants to have all the attention to him, but his parents don't have the time nor the energy to have all their attention onto him. So he wishes that he can spend Christmas all alone without his family. And his wish comes true after his family literally forgets him. And they go to Paris and he is left alone at the house, hence the title Home Alone. But when a couple of bumbling burglars played by Daniel Stern and the great Joe Pesci come along, Kevin McAllister has to form his wit, his genius, his integrity, his stealth. He just has to kick their asses. This movie is also directed by Chris Columbus, who wrote Gremlins, which Gremlins is a great creature movie. Right off the bat, this movie is smartly written. John Hughes knows how to write for kids, not only for kids, for teenagers. Not only for teenagers, but for adults. This dude can write for anybody, and he's up for anything, and most of his scripts are first drafts, which is very, very rare. Most of the studios are just like, whoa, this is a first draft, no fucking way. He is insane in the membrane, and he knows exactly what to do. He is so smart and so wise with his movies. This movie features some clever dialogue from the great Macaulay Culkin. Macaulay Culkin, let's talk about him for a second. He's so good in this movie. He carries this movie like it's nothing. You can tell part of him, he's just a little kid. He tries his hardest, but then again he's just a little kid. But that brings so much more to the role. And John Williams' score too. There's just John Williams. He is the best man to ever live. Now, one problem, this movie likes to be known as The Kid versus the Burglars, but really it's just about a kid being home alone, literally, hence the title. The first movie is it's just about this kid wanting to be alone and his mom wanting to be away from her kid, and how these two now are away from each other, and how the kid is kind of like, ooh, this is some fun stuff, you know, I'm eating ice cream and I'm watching TV and stuff, but then he starts seeing burglars and he's like, oh no, I want my mom. And then his mom is automatically like, oh, I don't have my son. She freaks out. It's a good movie that shows both dynamics. It shows both the mom's point of view and the kid's point of view. But the only problem is it's the victim of marketing failure. The movie's trailers and covers and posters are all just underlining this burglar aspect. And it's saying, oh, watch these bumbling burglars get their ass kicked by this kid. But really, that doesn't happen until the third act, which isn't bad because the ride that we're taking on, it's not a bad ride. It's actually a really not just a fun one, but it teaches you a lesson. It parents more than the kids. It basically just don't forget your kid. That's another problem with the movie, is that it drags. There are some scenes that we don't need. When Kevin goes to see Santa, it's a sweet scene. It's kind of showing his growth. He's now caring about his family instead of himself. But it's a scene that we don't need after we're finding out that the burglars are going to be at the house at 9 o'clock, And it's just, we want to get to that stuff. It seems like stuff that's like kind of holding us back from the plot that we want to get to. Another scene is when Kevin goes to the church. Now I'm gonna say a spoiler, so if you haven't seen Home Alone, then screw you. You have to see Home. So there's this character, I forgot his name, but he shovels salt onto the street, and he's known as this killer by Buzz, Kevin's brother. So Kevin, the entire movie's thinking this guy's a killer. So now he's home alone. He sees this guy walking around, and he's like, ah! He's freaking out. By the way, Kevin's scream is perfect. I don't know how Macaulay Culkin can naturally scream like that, but he can do it perfectly. This guy is known as just like a creepy and evil character the entire thing. But then there's this church scene where Kevin talks to him, and he finds out, oh, he has this son and stuff. And it's a sweet scene, but we don't need it. It's such a long scene. It's such a long scene with just dialogue between these two, and it's the dialogue is written nicely. Like, everything is nicely done, but we want to get to Kevin kicking the burglars' asses. We don't want to see this anymore. And plus, towards the end, Kevin goes to this dude's house, and the dude hits the burglars and then saves Kevin. I think it would have been so much more of an impact if we thought this guy was creepy the entire movie, and then to see him grow like that and find out, oh, he's not creepy, he's gonna help Kevin. I thought that would have been a better approach to it instead of this long, drawn-out, dialogue-driven scene. Now let's talk about Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. No, actually, you know what? Daniel Stern's great, but let's talk about Joe Pesci. This guy is amazing. I'm pretty sure, like, at the time, people were very nervous about this, just like any, if I heard about Joe Pesci being in a kid's movie about a kid being home alone, I would be like, what? Joe Pesci, the Goodfellas guy? Really? He's gonna stoop that low? But he's perfectly casted, perfectly casted. The grunting, you can totally tell the grunting is his way of cursing. It's just, him and Daniel Stern are the perfect odd couple. And Daniel Stern, he's so funny. His facial expressions, the way that he says things, the way when he explains the Wet Bandits to Joe Pesci, it's just so ridiculous and funny. The guy is such a character. He's such a comical character, and I'm sure he looked like he did like a lot of his own stunts. I'm not sure, but he looks like he did like a lot of shit. Overall, Home Alone is a hilarious film on what it would be like as a kid to be left by your family. This film captures great writing, great cinematography, amazing soundtrack, stunning stunt work, and a star-making performance by Macaulay Culkin. This movie is a classic. You don't need to hear that from me, but though it drags a little bit, the movie is still a fun time for the whole family. Not only the whole family, but for kids. I feel like this is the ultimate kids movie. I remember watching this movie as a kid, and I loved it because it made me feel like I was on top. It made me feel like this was a real kids movie. Like, kids are on top. We're kicking ass, man. Alright guys, that's what I think. What do you guys think about Home Alone? If you want, you can stay tuned because I am doing its sequel literally right after this. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. So stay tuned for that. If you guys want, you can follow me on Twitter at I'mJustin_420. And guys, please stay tuned. And yes, blah, blah, blah. That's all I got.